welcome back to another inspired expert end user operations training video. Today we're going to look at how to create a basic sign. At this point we've already added our player and imported our templates, and so we're ready to begin creating our first sign in Inspired Composer. Now Inspired Composer works by using messages. Now a message takes a template either from a pre-configured template pack or a custom created template pack provided by AMX, and then edits certain editable fields, such as the title, the body text, and the image. And so we're going to begin by creating a basic full-screen 16:9 message. And to begin creating a message in Inspired Composer, you simply go to Create Message, and click on that. And once you've clicked on Create Message, you see this dialog box that shows you all the different templates that you have uploaded into Inspired Composer. Now to narrow this down to the templates we're looking for, we need to narrow down by the aspect ratio. And if you notice here, you can see that the aspect ratio for each of these templates are included here as part of the name. There are different sizes depending on which area of the sign the template is designed for. These 10:1 areas here are long and skinny. 16:9 is sort of the more standard widescreen image format that you're used to. And then we have other formats here, such as a 26:1, which is even skinnier than the 10:1. And then we see the 3:4 and the 3:5, which are kind of tall and kind of skinny, but more square than the 16:9. But what we're wanting to do is just a 16:9 message that we are going to make full screen. And so we'll just search 16:9. If we type that into the search field, then this will automatically filter through and only show us the 16:9 templates that we have. And there are a whole lot of them here still to choose from, and so we need to look specifically for the template that we're wanting to use. Now the first thing shows us the template style, AMX Skyline. That's a certain set of template packs that we have uploaded. And then we have the size, A 16:9, and that's the aspect ratio of that template. And then we have where this one says calendar. So this is a calendar template. And then beyond that, we see that this one says feed reel. Now we'll learn how to use feed reels in a later video, but feed reels essentially pull from some external database and pulls data in from places such as an RSS feed. There's various different types of external databases that can be pulled from, and then that data is pulled from those external locations and imported into the sign. That's what a feed reel is, and we don't need a feed reel at this time. This one here is a calendar, and it's an item. An item template is not going to be looking outside, it's only going to be looking to what's inside the message. We do want an item template, but we don't want to use a calendar right now. This here is a different type of template. This is a layout template. That's why you see modal layout. And we'll be using a layout in a moment. We'll actually be using this layout template right here because this is going to be a full screen template. But before we create our layout, we need to create our actual message that we're going to be using. And so what we are actually wanting is something that's got an image and a title and some text. And if you see here, this is image, title, and text. It's an item template. This is the feed reel template. We're done with the feed reel. Image, title, and text, item template. So you can see this sort of standard graphic here. You see that we have a title, and there's some text here, and an image, and so we have all of those in sort of standard locations in this basic template here, and this is a 16:9, and that's exactly what we're wanting. So we've selected the template we wanted, and now we click Next. And now we can adjust the values for the image, the title, and the body text. The first thing we want to do is to go ahead and adjust the name for this message. So we'll give it something that we can easily find. Let's just call this, I'm just going to do an underscore so it goes right to the top, and call this AMX demo sign. And I'm going to put 16:9 so I don't forget what the aspect ratio is of this particular message. And so now I can go in and adjust my image, my title, and my body text. For my image, I just click Choose Image, and then I browse to my image. Alright, so I went and found a picture that I took on vacation a couple years ago, and I like that little picture, and so we're going to use that as our image. Then we adjust our title. I'm just going to call this Welcome to Inspired Expert. And then I enter some body text. Alright, so there I entered some body text. It just says, congratulations, you've created your first sign. Now we're ready to add it to our playlist and set our layout, which is what we're about to do. And so now that our message is created, we'll click Save. And it's going to upload that picture. Now we need to assign it to those resource pools. Again, if you're not using resource pools, you don't necessarily have to do this, but if you think you may use resource pools at a later date, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and check those boxes to assign it to the resource pools that you want to draw it from, and then click Save. And now, if we sort by name, we can see that AMX demo sign has been created and it's ready to go. There's a preview available. If we clicked on this and we clicked Preview Message, we could look at the sign we've created. However, if the hardware on your PC doesn't meet AMX's requirements, then you're not going to be able to preview that image on your screen. You have to have certain hardware for the preview message function to work. Nevertheless, once we publish this out to our player, we'll be able to look at it and see that it works there on our player. But if that is something that you need in your situation, you need to be sure that your hardware meets AMX's requirements. Well, now that we've created our message, the next thing we need to do is we need to create a layout for that sign to go in. If you remember, we saw that full screen layout and we said we were going to be using that in a moment. We're going to use that now. Let's just add a layout. And we can see our full screen modal layout, and we select that. And then we click Next. And now we're going to create a new message based upon the full screen template. And we're going to call this _AMX demo full screen layout. And see, we can adjust the color of our background. Our background is going to have the skyline image, which we can't change. However, we can change the color that the skyline image uses, the hue of the background image. And right now it's set to this pink color, but maybe you want a different color. For example, I'm going to choose blue. I like this blue color. It's sort of AMX blue, and I like that. So I'm going to do that. And so now the background you'll see will be a bluish color as opposed to a pink color, which is what it would be if I didn't adjust the color template. And the only other thing to note here is you can see that this says which playlist it's pulling from. And you see A16:9. You don't want to adjust this, but you do want to make note of it. This is saying that it's going to look to the A16:9 playlist to know what content it should play inside of the full screen area. So we want to add the message that we created to the A16:9 playlist so that it plays within this layout. So now that our color is set and we've changed our name, we're ready to go ahead and click Save. Then assign it to our resource pools. And now we're ready to add the message we created, the AMX demo sign 16:9. We're ready to add that to our playlist. So if we go to Playlists, we can see the various playlists that our layout templates use to know what content should be playing. And since this is a full screen 16:9 playlist, this is using the A16:9 area playlist. And you can see A16:9, and in parentheses you see primary. You want to use that. You don't want to use live media. You want to be using the primary playlist for this case. And so we want to select that. And to assign our message to our playlist, you just double click on that playlist, and that brings up this dialog, which shows us all of the 16:9 messages that we could use within this playlist. And any of these messages, or all of them, we could add to this playlist, and this playlist will cycle through the various 16:9 messages and play them in order. But the only one we want to add is this AMX demo sign 16:9, and so we'll click Add Messages, and there our sign is right there in our playlist. And we're ready to go because we only want this one. And so we'll click OK. And now we see that our sign has been added to this playlist. And now our playlist is ready to go, but we need to know which layout we're going to use for our sign, because as you saw, there's a lot of different layouts that we could use. So we need to use the layout selector to tell us which layout we're wanting to use for our sign. So you double click on that just like we did before. And now all our layout messages are available to add to our playlist. Now, one thing to note here, you only want to have a single layout playing at a time on your sign. Now later on, we're going to learn how to use validity rules to say which sign is playing at what time and set timings that way. And in those cases, you could have multiple layouts that are playing at different times and thus have more than one layout playing in a playlist. But since this playlist, we aren't using any validity rules, we're not doing anything fancy, we're just having one layout play all the time. Since we're going to do that, we want to be sure we only use one layout in our playlist. And so I'm going to use the full screen layout that we set. And so this layout is going to be the only layout that's playing on our sign. And so we'll click Add Message, and we just see the one layout, and now everything should work fine, and we'll do OK. And we can see our layout showing up as being assigned to our playlist. Well, now that we've created our content, added it to our area playlist, and then added our layout to our layout selector, we're ready to go ahead and publish this content to our player. And to do that, we click on the little newspaper icon, which is Publish. And we can see our training player there ready for us to upload our content. So now, if you've uploaded your content before, you can use Publish Message Changes, and that'll update what content you've uploaded. But since we haven't uploaded anything yet, we need to use Force Publish. Now, if you have multiple players that you've uploaded, and you only want to upload your content to certain players, then you would use Force Publish to Selected. However, if you only have one player like we do, or if you have multiple players and you want to upload your content to all of them, then you would Force Publish All Messages, and that's what we're going to do. So for your initial upload of your content, you want to do Force Publish All Messages. And that'll bring up this dialog saying, Force Publish all messages to all published points, all the players on our list. We want to say yes. So now it's going to upload that content to our player. Now you don't always get a status here because it happens fairly quickly. You don't always see that feedback, but if you wait a minute and you watch your sign, you can see that that's been uploaded. And we can actually go to our live monitor and check. And you can see right now that our content is playing in the background. You can see this in the background that looks like our content is playing correctly. But we have this diagnostic screen showing on top of it. And what this gives you some details like your IP address, the display resolution, and some other diagnostic features of your sign. And this is oftentimes loaded, especially when you first start using your player, you'll see that. But if you ever see this and you want to turn it off, then you're just going to click Hide. But before you can do that, you have to actually log in. This will show you your view, but you won't be able to adjust any of your settings until you log in. And just as with Inspired Composer, the login for your Inspired XPert player is administrator and your password is administrator. So you type administrator, administrator to log into your player. And now we can adjust our settings, such as, for example, showing the on-screen diagnostics. And if we click Hide, there, now our message has gone away and we can see the live view of what our sign looks like. And we can see the bluish background of the cityscape that we see behind it. You can see all the settings that we made to make our sign look the way we wanted. And if you ever want that on-screen diagnostics back, you just click Show and it'll come back up for you. Or you can click Hide to make it go back away. And that's all there is to it. You've created your first sign and it really wasn't that hard, I hope. And now you're ready to begin creating content. So stay tuned and we'll show you how to create some more dynamic content with Inspired XPert.